Hi, and in this video I'm going to be taking a contrary view to the suggestion that Sylvanas is the enemy of the Void and someone the old gods fear. I'm going to go through the nature of Void Whispers, the experiences that Alleria has had with these in the recent Windrunner comic, and conclude that far from being an enemy of the Void, the old gods may well see Sylvanas as their route to freedom. So to begin with, let's examine the types of whisper that come from the Void, whether from the old gods, their servants, or something more unknown. First of all, many of the statements are just simple lies. We have known this for as long as old gods have been part of the Warcraft story, and Alleria refers to them as such in the Windrunner comic. Second, they are sometimes used to generate a state of paranoia or delusions of grandeur in their victim. They do this to persuade their target that they cannot trust their own people and should be ruling them instead, and that the Void can give them the power to realise this ambition. In this example, the Whispers say that Alleria should rule Silvermoon, and later, that she sacrificed greatness by not killing Sylvanas. They are pushing the message that obeying their commands will be the route to elevation. We also know that this same technique was used very successfully on Neltharion and others in the past. Possibly it works less well against those who don't desire personal glory. Third, they may be statements of their own perspective. A number of Il'gynoth Whispers, for example, refer to important characters in World of Warcraft, some more obvious than others.
The boy king serves at the master's table. 3 lives will he offer you. The king of diamonds has been made a pawn.
Here, the Whispers describe both Anduin and Magni effectively being forced into servitude. However, that may be true from their point of view, but not be a literal objective truth. The statements do not necessarily tell us anything. They are just a reflection of how the world and events appears to the creatures of the Void. And fourth, they may be prophecy. It could be a prophecy born of a genuine ability to see the future, or it could just be the Void's intended future, for which there is no inevitability about it yet. It is this last example that I would like to return to shortly. So now that we've examined the types of Void Whispers, let's look at the specifics of why some think that Sylvanas is a feared enemy of the Void. And it is in this caption. This one is dangerous. She is a threat and must be ended. Beware this one. She seeks the death of all things, all possibilities. End her threat, murder her. Save yourself and murder her. Save the world and murder her. But let's examine this. First of all, the urgent command for Alleria to kill Sylvanas is assumed to be because the Void fears Sylvanas. However, this is a misstep for 2 really important reasons. One is that the Whispers tell her to kill everyone she meets in this comic. It also tells her to kill Turalyon and Varisa. There's nothing particularly unusual, therefore, in its command to kill Sylvanas. It's just being consistent with its encouragement for Alleria to slay people. It tries to come up with reasons in each case in order to persuade Alleria of the need for them to die. Look at the statement more carefully. First, it plays on the fear that Sylvanas wants the death of all things. Well, any mortal would oppose that. Then it says that killing Sylvanas will save Alleria, so appealing to self-interest instincts. Finally, it says that killing Sylvanas will save the world, trying to appeal to her altruism. It is just firing off potential motivations in the hopes that one of them sticks, like a salesperson trying to reel off a list of benefits to their tawdry goods in the hope that one of them appeals to the customer. And then we use the word murder a lot in there as well, rather than just kill. So it's not even trying to pretend that it would be an assassination for the greater good. It wants to corrupt Alleria. It wants her to knowingly murder and therefore effectively sell her soul to the Void. Now, the second reason that this thinking is potentially wrong is that there has been a suggestion nearly 2 years ago that the old gods want Sylvanas killed especially, not because they fear her, but because she is somehow the key to their freedom.
At the hour of her 3rd death, she ushers in our coming.
Now, we don't know exactly who this refers to, other than it is female and likely someone who has died twice already. Whether a metaphorical or literal death is also up for debate. We also don't know how the death could benefit the old gods. If it's a metaphorical death, then it might be Azeroth herself. It could be argued that Amonthul ripping Y'Shaarj and causing the wound which nearly bled the budding titan to death may have been one metaphorical death. The same may now be said of the sword of Sargeras being plunged into Silithus. It would also be obvious that were there another major assault to take place on Azeroth herself, that there would be little to prevent the Old Gods finally corrupting the World Soul, and the Void would have succeeded in their plan. Though Azeroth has only received the second of those major wounds sometime after Il'gynoth made this statement, still, it's possible that it was prophecy based on future sight. After all, if mortal mages can meddle with time, I'm pretty sure the Void has some sensitivity to it. However, that's stretching a point pretty far. Azeroth hasn't actually been killed, simply wounded a couple of times. The statement fits Sylvanas much better. She has, after all, been killed twice, and with the way she's carrying on, quite frankly, she's asking for another death. Now, there may be some that think she's died 3 times already, but as someone pointed out the last time I talked about this, although Sylvanas is undead, her mortal form was never actually killed as is normal for others of her kind. Arthur's turned her straight from an elf into a banshee without any death occurring in between, as indicated by the fact that she carries on talking through the entire ordeal. So whether true or not, if the statement is referring to Sylvanas, and this remains simply the most likely case and by no means certain, then it might be that the Void wants Sylvanas dead because she somehow holds the key to their freedom. Coming back to the Whisper imploring Illyria to kill Sylvanas, it describes her as serving the true enemy. Well, the enemy of the Void is the light, but could also refer to Azeroth herself. Well, nobody seriously thinks that Sylvanas serves the light, and would certainly not be chief amongst its champions even if she secretly did. However, we can certainly say that she serves Azeroth, after a fashion. But the same could be said of any of the heroes of the Horde or the Alliance, or anyone who belongs to neither faction. In fact, anyone not corrupted by the Void is the enemy of them, by definition. It's just another example of the Whispers desperately trying to convince Illyria of the need to kill, and is using every trick it can think of. The sentients behind the Void probably can't fully understand what will persuade Illyria, because most mortals who seek to use the Void do so for personal glory. For such people, the compulsions in these Whispers would be hitting the money every time. However, Illyria's motivations are very different, but the Void probably lacks the subtlety to understand this and keeps up with its tried and trusted methods anyway. So in conclusion, there is no special danger to the Void from Sylvanas. The Whispers are constantly telling Illyria to kill those close to her. If Illyria went into a petting zoo, the Whispers would probably tell her to kill all the bunnies and make a rabbit pie as well. Sylvanas is not especially driven to ending the Old God menace, though I'm sure she would if given the opportunity, but then so would everyone else in the story. The Whispers say that Sylvanas seeks the death of all things. Well, this may or may not be true, and there's no real proof that it is true. However, this is what the Void wants. So if Sylvanas really were working to that goal, she'd be the one person that the Old Gods wouldn't want harmed. The fact is that these statements are just being fired at Illyria to give her the motivation to kill. The Void aren't opposed to someone who wants all life snuffed out, but they know Illyria would be. In fact, the only life that the Old Gods don't want snuffed out is that of Azeroth herself, because their ultimate goal is the remaking of the universe, for which they feel they need a corrupted Titan. There is simply not a shred of truth in the Whispers that Illyria receives in the comic, and she knows it. She says as much, and it should be equally obvious to us as well. If the Old Gods really do prize the death of Sylvanas in particular, and there's no suggestion of that from the comic, then it's only because she may be the subject of the prophecy that Il'gynoth uttered to us in the Emerald Nightmare nearly 2 years ago. So I hope this video gave you food for thought. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share with others who may also be interested. And until next time, I'll see you later.